Why did you want to be a cosmonaut?
Why did I decide to become a cosmonaut? At the beginning of my professional career, when I graduated from Moscow Aviation Academy Institute, I have been working there for 6 years. I had been working there for 6 years. By that time, I was teaching, researching, and I was studying the issues of medical and biological problems for the Buran project. And I was testing for and researching this subject. And we had quite a few very interesting experiments for short orbits for such vehicles as the shuttle, for example. And I understood that I have the potential, because to be honest, before, I thought that cosmonauts were superhumans, that pretty much gods. But the more I worked in this system, the more I understood that I could do that too. And probably by the 80s, by 1980, I set it as my goal to try and become a cosmonaut. Unfortunately, it took me a very long time because I was working on the Buran project. And only in 1992, I was accepted into the cosmonaut, corps. I was actually before I was a programmer, and I later understood that you cannot compare being a cosmonaut, the cosmonaut profession, with anything. He has to be a universal human being with great knowledge in all areas, not just programming, but also in the field of medicine, in the field of technology. It's a comprehensive profession that requires, first of all, love and then great knowledge. I don't know what profession would be more interesting than being a cosmonaut. I don't think I ever thought of even changing it or studying something new or going into politics, for example. I think I will be a cosmonaut to the end.
When you were a young boy, what did you dream of being when you grew up?
Well, most of all, I was dreaming of becoming a pilot, or maybe a submariner. But it was in the 60s, and of course, for us, for boys like me, cosmonauts were superhumans. They were heroes that were well known to everybody in the country. And of course, I couldn't even dream, couldn't even imagine in my childhood thoughts that it would one day come true. It's my pinnacle. I have reached it.
Tell me about your childhood and your hometown, the area where you grew up, which is in the far eastern regions of your country.
That is true. I was born in Magadan in the far east of the country, and then my parents moved to Anadырь in Chukotka. It's very close to Alaska, but the closest city was Anadырь. I later moved to Moscow to enter into college, but I spent most of my childhood in the northern parts of the Far East, and I love this part of the country. Maybe because it's my homeland, but it's a great place. If you have been to Alaska, then it's pretty much the same. The nature is just fantastic. Of course, the climate is very harsh, 8 months of winter, lots of snow and ice, but I love it. I enjoy it. When I get a chance, I try to come and visit my hometown. But unfortunately, the last time I was there was 3 years ago. But that's what I called my motherland.
You mentioned earlier, and perhaps I could get you to repeat for us, the steps in your education and your professional career that led you ultimately to become a cosmonaut. Said you graduated from high school, but then you went to Moscow for university, for study.
That's correct. I graduated high school in Anadырь in 1970, and then I was admitted to the Moscow Aviation Institute. I graduated in 1977. And I was invited to work in a research laboratory in the institute that was working on space systems. And I was working on my dissertation. At the same time, I graduated from another department and got a degree in automated computer systems. And in 1983, 6 years later, I started working in RSC Energia, and by that time I had already submitted my request to join the Cosmonaut Corps. But unfortunately, it wasn't accepted because one of the conditions for me to be able to be admitted was to be working for one of the corporations that dealt with space exploration, and that's why I joined RSC Energia. And I was working on the Buran project, on the Mir station project, and I was supporting the crew training, guidance and navigation control, and we have tried a lot of various aircrafts in the process. But the Buran project was over, and afterwards I started working on the Mir project, and then joined in the 90s the Cosmonaut Corps, and in 1995 that's when I started being actively, and I was working with Reiter and Manakov. So, and that's how I joined the team, and I have been in the Cosmonaut Corps ever since.
To fly in space is to do a job that has some unique risks to it, and the fact that you are doing it tells me that you think that the rewards are worth the risk that you take. So I would like to get you to tell me why. What is it that you think we are learning? What is it that we get as a result of flying people in space that makes it worth taking that risk?
You know, I think it's well worth the risk. All these risks can be explained by one interesting comparison. I was in Spain once, and in one of the cities in Spain, I was told how America was discovered and why little Spain was sending ships across the ocean and finally discovered this great land that later became America. Of course, the risks were enormous, and they were probably just the same as ours. The goals, they didn't have clear-cut goals and routes to those new lands. They were just discovering. And now we probably can talk for hours why we need space exploration, but we do need it so that in 10, 50, or maybe 100 years we will work so that we are capable to support, to provide completely new things, items, technology for Earth, because, well, we didn't know about tea that comes from India, but now we can't live without it in Europe, Russia, all over the world. And I think that I would not discuss all the terrible dangers that are described to us. But I think that space exploration is actually a way to protect our civilization from threats from outer space, which are very real. Luckily, we did not come face to face with them. But engineers, specialists, and scientists know that these dangers exist, and the only way to prepare for them is space exploration. We need it, even for that. And, well, if we try to turn off our satellites for 2 or 3 minutes that are basically sending signals for everything, for the TV stations, for everything, well, and here we'll be able to see the results. And space exploration, or space flight in general, it pushes the boundaries further and allows us for new things. And of course, people who were exploring the Earth did not know that they will discover America in 4 months, for example. The risks were great. But I have no doubt that, likewise, we, as those explorers, we need to explore space. And we should not be asking us why. Usually I say that it's boring for me to just sit at home, and I want to get out, see the lands around me, visit my neighbors and friends, travel abroad. And here, probably we have a small group of people who are bored living on Earth.
You and your crewmates are next in line to fly to the International Space Station. So, Pavel, tell me, just in summary, what are the goals of this mission to the International Space Station, and what is your role as a member of this crew?
I will be the commander of the crew, so my role is pretty clear and well-defined. Our main goal for Expedition 3536 is to continue the research that is currently conducted on board the station, and primarily it will be to prepare the Russian segment of the ISS to accept, to dock a new module, the so-called MLM. It's a new Russian module, a research module. And, of course, there will be a lot of work linked with these operations to install all of the equipment outside the station, to lay the cables. And, of course, our research program is very extensive. We have about 46 experiments that we will be carrying out on board.
What are you looking forward to the most about seeing the International Space Station again after these years?
I think it will be great to go back to the zero-G environment. That's for the first and most. And of course, for people who were on board the station, feel that it's their second house, home. And it will be like going home. Coming home for me. And of course, it's large.